Tally decides to disrupt Nicta's execution by enacting this very ancient piece of witch folklore called the rite of proxy, by which a witch can take the place of another witch who's destined to die, and you have to fight that witch to the death. And it's beautiful to see her unit kind of backing her up, and even other members of her coven come out, and it becomes this Spartacus moment that's like pretty awesome.
Graffin actually screams rite of proxy at Tally in the first mother tongue class. And that's the first mention of it, but it kind of goes over Tally's head, probably rests somewhere way back in her subconscious. And the significance of that duel is that it cannot be refused.
It stops Alder in her tracks, maybe for the first time. She's already had a lot of pushback, but she's so hardened on getting to where she goes. I think that's the first, it's almost like a slap in the face. You know, it's a crazy spot to be put in, also knowing the experience that Alder has versus the experience that Tally has, it's outweighed.
She knows there is no way that she stands a chance in hand-to-hand combat with Alder. She's prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice.
You don't do that. You don't step up against Alder and push back, especially not as a recruit. And it isn't until Anacostia places her hand on Alder's shoulder that Alder knows, okay, this is it. This is the point where I can't go any further. And I feel like at that point it's almost a relief, because you get to a point where you're kind of ready to throw in the towel, and because of the rite of proxy, she knows she has no other way out. So I think at that point it's almost, you know what? Enough. Enough is enough. I think she's so tired as well at that point.
So this is a tumultuous moment for Anacostia. She's sitting there in silence and solidarity, as always, kind of watching what all is going on, and she has to pick a side. But she's always been about siding with the truth. It doesn't matter who it's coming from. So when she has to actually go and side with her babies on the rite of proxy, while it breaks her heart, she knows it's the right thing to do.
It's a pretty seismic moment when we see Alder take off her bars and her stripes and walk away. It's like, you know, let's not forget Alder's been doing this for 327 years, you know. It's a pretty epic moment, and it's a scary moment too, because everybody feels like they were doing the right thing for the right reasons, but where have they left the army, you know, without Alder? We have Petra in charge now, and I think Petra, she's a bit more by the book than Alder. You know, she believes in the system, and I think she's going to try to bring that system back in a new way now that Alder's gone.
Anacostia always knew Petra was out to get the position that was occupied by Alder. I always knew that. But it got to a point where by Alder's actions and by Petra's willingness to do what was right, I was able to understand that transference of power was necessary, and the respect came along with that. The bulk of episode 9, Anacostia and Alder have been strained. Trust is not there. Love is being tested. Loyalties are tested. Consequences are showing. And we're getting to the point of no return when everything comes to a boil with the capture of Nicta Batan. With that comes truths.
I think it's a huge loss. Of course I do. Because when you've been a leader for more than 300 years, it's about the knowledge you've gathered and the experience. And I think they'll come to understand how little experience they really have with the enemy that they are facing.
When we learn about the birth of the mycelium, it's pretty heartbreaking. Alder, back in the early days, was doing some work for the sort of early government of the United States of America, and came back to discover that many of her early witch soldiers had been murdered by the Camarilla. And so from that sort of epic grief was born this ancient earth sentience of the mycelium. And in a sense, it's sort of built out of Alder's trauma, and it becomes sort of a receptacle for witch souls, witches that were murdered unjustly.
for me, it was very important to, when I first started playing Alder, what makes Alder Alder? And for me, it was always, when it came down to it, when you really look and try and find the source, it's pain, it's loss, it's grief. It's made her who she is today. And when you go through that for years and years, and here we're talking 300 years, that's a very long time. So to be able to capture a moment like that, it gives us an insight of why Alder is who she is. For some reason, you know how they say that art imitates life, or is it life imitates art? I'm not sure which way it is. But so much what was happening in my personal life was somehow crossing over to Alder's world, and there was so much there that I was like, Lynn, use it, tap into it. You know, the loss of friends back home and things that you can't deal with necessarily because you are alone and you are isolated from everyone. It was almost like so strange that I could bring all of that to set and just use it and almost pour my heart out. And I mean, when you get that gift as an artist, it's one of the most beautiful things that can happen.